It was the most unique attack since the Dam Busters. If succeeded, it would launch fear on the Argentinians for the rest of the war. Night was no longer safe. This episode is dedicated to the daring Black Buck raids. Hi everyone, it's Eínon once again. Welcome to episode 3 of the Falklands War. The news of the invasion of the Falklands arrived to the crews of the last operational Vulcans at Waddington as a complete shock. However, it was impossible for the old Vulcan bombers to attack the islands. They were just too far. The Vulcan was designed to attack Moscow, a short voyage across Europe. Even if the British used the Ascension Islands as a base, there was still a colossal distance of more than 4,000 miles to the Falklands, and back. So the idea was to perform a truly unique attack. A single Vulcan would fly 8,000 miles between the Ascension Islands and the Falklands and hit the runway of the islands. Although symbolic, it would dissuade Argentina from deploying fast attack jets to the islands. The problem was, the Vulcans no longer had the aerial refueling capacity. Maintenance crews tried to prepare the planes and looked everywhere for the parts needed to fix the refueling probes. The Vulcan was also at the moment incapable of dropping conventional bombs, since its main armament at the time was nuclear cruise missiles. Somehow they managed to find the system to drop the bombs, but due to the small number of available bombs, around 360 leftovers from the Second World War, and the reduced number of available victors, only one Vulcan would proceed to the target at a time. Pilots trained their bombing skills on the Scotland, bombing the island of Garvey. However, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds got a little infuriated with those trainings because they were killing lots of seagulls and other endangered species. And of course they demanded the immediate stop of those trainings. This became big public news, and shortly after, the RAF released a propaganda video showing the Vulcans training for the attack.
To reach the Falklands, they would have to fly the bombers from Ascension Island, refueling them in mid-air.
This came as a very nasty surprise for the pilots, because the RAF was pretty much telling the Argentinians the details of their secret mission. They only forgot to say the day and time that they would arrive. Eventually, the planes flew to Ascension Islands and prepared for the first mission. The planes received electronic countermeasure pods for defense against Argentinian radars and surface-to-air missiles. This pod hid the Vulcan from the radars, creating decoys and giving false information about its real position. 11 victors were needed for the mission. 5 victors would refuel 5 other victors, and 1 victor would refuel the Vulcan. Those would return immediately to Ascension, since one of them needed to refuel and return to refuel the Vulcan during the return. The remaining 5 victors would proceed and repeat this action until there was only 1 victor remaining to refuel the Vulcan before its final run. Any mistake would mean to ditch the plane during the night on the middle of the Atlantic without almost no hope of survival. To perform the attack, the RAF also needed updated information of the target. And the only way to do it was to use the Royal Navy Sea Harriers to perform reconnaissance missions before and after the attack to confirm the results. This was a complex political matter because the overall idea of the raid was to reduce some of the pressure on the Navy's Harriers and give the RAF some spotlight during the war. On the night of 30th of April, the first raid was made. There was always a spare Vulcan taking off in case there was any problem, and following the Murphy's Law, it did. The main Vulcan had problems with pressurization and was forced to return to the base, so the spare plane continued. According to the plan, the refueling operation worked quite well, until a powerful electric storm appeared, making refueling even more difficult. Eventually, they made it through, but the Vulcan was spending too much fuel compared to the estimates. Even so, they continued to the islands and were received by flak fire. The Vulcan then dropped 21 bombs, one by one. Amazingly, they managed to hit the runway with their very first bomb, but then they needed to leave the area as quickly as possible and return to the base. Argentina Mirage-3 fighters scrambled from the mainland and were quickly traveling to the islands to hunt them. and during the return voyage the Vulcan was almost shot down by the Royal Navy. You see, the British fleet was approaching the islands, and since they were not sure if they were friend or foe, the entire British fleet pointed their missiles to the fleeing Vulcan. Luckily, someone was informed, and after transmitting the secure code, they continued to fly undisturbed. But there was still the problem of the Vulcan. They simply didn't have enough fuel to return to the Ascension, and they knew that if they ditched the plane on the sea, it was sure death. And after a very difficult voyage, they found the first returning Victor awaiting for them, fully fueled. They were saved. The British made 6 more raids against the islands after this, for a total of 7. The second raid, performed a few days later, failed to hit the runway. Missions 4 to 6 were performed with Shrike missiles, aimed to destroy the advanced 3D radar that the Argentinians used to control their aerial operations. These missiles were provided by the United States in secret to the British. They only managed to cause small blast damage to the radar and destroy one Skyguard secondary radar. The plane from Mission 6 was forced to divert to Brazil after problems during the return refueling operation. The plane landed at Rio de Janeiro, still carrying a Shrike missile, which was quite embarrassing for the Americans. Mission 7 hit the area around the airfield shortly before the end of the war. The others were scrubbed to weather. The effectiveness of the raids is disputed, as it's similar to the famous Doolittle raid against Japan in 1942, since it caused more psychological effects than actual damage. Some reports say that Argentina stopped plans to upgrade the runway on the islands to operate fighter jets, and was forced to move some fighters to more inland bases to protect Buenos Aires, in case the British decided to attack the capital. However, C-130's Hercules continued to bring supplies to the islands, so the overall effect of the operation is dubious. That's all for now. Don't forget to visit my Flickr page for more details about these LEGO models, and subscribe to my YouTube page. Thank you, and see you next time.